Welcome back to the RotoHeat.com 2020 rookie evaluations. Today we are talking about Jake Fromm from Georgia, quarterback.
You guys like all the great content we've been pumping out here at RotoHeat, make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell. With our rookie content this year, we're going to be covering pre-combine, post-combine, and then after their draft, their landing spot.
So the first trait we looked at here with Jake Fromm when it comes to quarterbacks was athletic ability. That could be his ability to elude pass rushers when he gets out of the pocket and scrambles, speed, agility, those types of things play into it. He's pretty average across the board. Among our 8 rankers, we had him at about a 5.7. So slightly above average, nothing special out in the open field or anything like that, but also not a statue back there in the pocket that's going to take a ton of sacks. Brad, do you have anything to add to that? What did you see when you looked at Fromm's tape?
Yeah, he's definitely more of a pocket passer. His athletic ability shows on the tape. You didn't see a lot to his game. And I don't think he's. I think our ranking on this is very, very fitting for him. Rick, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I can't go much further than what you guys mentioned about him. Like, he's not like so bad at everything that he's a hindrance to the team back there with his athletic ability, but he doesn't do anything that's going to wow you. He's not going to take advantage of, minor holes in the defense, but he should be able to be a pocket passer and be pretty average in that sense. I don't think he's, Tom Brady and he's going to take, 37 years to rush for 1,000 yards, but I also don't think he's anywhere near a Lamar Jackson. But moving on to a little better trait that we liked with him was his toughness. He wasn't really high above average, but he was a 6.6 from the group. I thought he was a little bit better than that personally. I felt like he was taking hits pretty well, but it was kind of weird because we're going to talk about pocket presence, and I didn't really feel like they correlated really well. But he did take hits pretty well, and he is a big frame. He has a big frame, so I think he's going to be pretty decent in the toughness category going into the NFL. Taylor, what did you see?
Yeah, I saw much of the same. I had him at about a 6, so a little bit lower than consensus, but overall a little bit above average. It's kind of hard when you're looking at toughness for a quarterback unless they, scramble a lot and you see him taking a lot of hits. Like, because we talked about Lamar Jackson a little bit earlier, he gets out of the pocket, scrambles a lot, and you can see his toughness. He takes hits, pops right back up. You don't see that a lot when you're watching Fromm's tape, just because you don't have a lot of instances of him scrambling around and running and things like that. But he did fine. Nothing special, but I don't think he's going to be a frail or fragile asset when he's in the NFL playing quarterback that you have to worry about taking hits and getting injured a lot, at least from what we saw on tape.
Yeah, and I mean, even now, as we're in bowl season, he's playing with a sprained ankle. The kid's got good toughness. I mean, I rated him at a 6, like you, Taylor, a little bit below the average, but he plays through injury. The kid will be on the field as barring anything significant. So the toughness is there. I mean, we rated it as one of his higher traits, but I'm excited about him because he'll play through that kind of stuff. And you see some guys in the NFL that just won't play through injury, and Fromm, I don't think you have to worry about that. If he can physically take the field, he will take the field. Next up is pocket presence, which kind of encompasses some of these things that we've been talking about. As a team, we rated him at a 6.8. I think this is probably at least personally, I think one of his better traits, just because the kind of player that he is. I project him in the NFL to be more of a pocket passer. He's got a good awareness in the pocket where the pressure's coming from, and he kind of moves around in it very well. Going back to like athletic ability and some of those things, he's probably not going to leave the pocket a ton. And we saw that if you looked at his college stats, he didn't rush the ball often. So he stays in that pocket. That's kind of his comfort zone. And he does a pretty good job in there. What say you on that, Rick?
See, I thought he had poor pocket presence. I feel like he he rushes too much. And when watching his tape, I felt like it reminded me of that famous Sam Darnold line of seeing ghosts. There was a lot of times where the pocket really hadn't collapsed as much, but he rushed passes, and that's when his accuracy takes a dip. So like I think he's willing to take a hit. I just think that he doesn't feel that pocket as well as he could, and it makes him rush some throws sometimes uh, when he doesn't really have to. Taylor, what did you think?
Yeah, I'm closer to siding with you on that as far as pocket presence. So originally, I think I had him at like a 7.5 out of 10. But as I was reading through some of the notes I was jotting down from the tape I watched, it didn't seem like that rating was really matching up with what I was seeing. So that was why I revisited. Ended up dropping him down to a 6.5. So again, above average, but I didn't think he was warranting too much above average. I saw a lot of the same things where the pocket wasn't necessarily collapsing, but he was just locking on to his first read and just really trying to force the ball there. In the few games that I watched, I saw a lot of batted balls. It seemed like more than usual. I think defensive linemen pick up on when quarterbacks are locking onto their wide receivers. I also saw when he did get pressured, like you said, he wasn't afraid to take a hit, but he was accustomed to sometimes throwing off of his back foot, kind of like fadeaway pass type of things, which he got away with that a little bit in college, but he doesn't have the arm strength to get away with that in the NFL. It's going to result in a lot of turnovers and things like that. I thought it was one of his weaker strengths, like weaknesses. So we'll touch on one a little bit later that I thought he was better at, but as I watched the tape and re-looked at my rankings and my notes, it seemed like he was above average, but I wouldn't go much above that 6.5 that I rated him at. The next section is we looked at arm strength for quarterbacks, so that's obviously pretty important. So, I touched on that a little bit already of what I thought. We had him there to 6.4 as a team. I had him a little bit higher there at 7. I did see some instances where he was able to throw from the far hash and hit his receiver, even if it was a short route, out routes, hitches, things like that. The passes, traveling a larger distance across the field and it wasn't getting picked off, which shows some arm strength. I didn't see a lot of instances of him pushing the ball down the field, which was a little worrisome, I guess, especially in today's NFL. If he's going to project to be a decent starter, you want to see him complete, more in the medium and long range passes. What about you, Brad? What'd you see?
Yeah, this was one of the traits that I liked the most about him. I think I rated him at like an 8. Because I saw he not only did he have a pretty solid arm, but the ball placement. I saw a lot of back shoulder stuff where he was putting the ball in a good spot. I also saw a lot of times where his receivers, drop the ball. I mean, not having Hardman and Ridley and some of these guys to throw to, he was trying to make things work with guys that you could tell were still developing. But I thought he did fine with what he needed to do. I think he projects well for a system similar to like a Saints system where it's more West Coast, where you're really mostly short to intermediary. But it looked like he could hit, like you mentioned, hash marks and things like that. I saw a lot of good out routes and him putting the ball in the back shoulder pretty well. So I'm not too terribly concerned moving to the next level with this one. What about you, Rick?
Yeah, I'm more with Taylor on this one. Like when seeing his passes, it didn't wow me. There wasn't a lot of zip. I mean, it wasn't like he had a weak arm. It just wasn't what I'm looking for. Like if as Taylor said when we were prepping for this episode, if you're comparing arm strength, then there's one guy that you compare arm strength to, and that's Patrick Mahomes. And if he's the 10 on this scale, then Fromm's nowhere close. And that was kind of where I went into this, especially with him being the first quarterback. I could see like some of these adjusting as we're going through and we're seeing other quarterbacks and seeing how they do these different things. That's maybe part of the issue of these guys being the first ones that we do at a position and only seeing that, but he is the first quarterback. So we haven't compared that any when watching film, but I think that Anthony summed it up best in his notes, and he was just like, Fromm's very average. And I feel like he's very average, pretty much across the board and everything. And I just wasn't impressed by his arm strength. But going into accuracy, I was lower here than everybody else was. Everybody had him at a 7.9. I felt like he did make some really good throws, but like he got worse at every level going down the field. His accuracy was a lot worse. So even when he gets rushed, his short game is a mess. And seen him miss a lot of his, tight end and running backs on short routes when even when he wasn't really frazzled, as we talked about his pocket presence, he missed a lot of those throws. So I wasn't as impressed as everybody else with his accuracy. Taylor, what did you think?
Of course, this was the area I had him rated highest in, so it's fitting that I follow your lead there. But I had him at an 8.5, and it might have just been the games I watched. I watched a few of them. I know I watched the 2018 SEC Championship against Alabama. I thought he looked good accuracy wise. Again, like I said before, I didn't see him push the ball down the field much. So if you saw games where he was trying to do that and he wasn't on, I saw a lot of short and intermediate passes. He was able to hit the out routes, the drags, the slants, the hitches, kind of those basic routes, but they do require ball placement. I thought he did pretty well on those. I didn't see a lot of instances where he's airmailing the ball or throwing at his receiver's feet or throwing behind his receivers where they have to break stride. So I was actually decently impressed there. That was his attribute that I had him rated highest at.
Yeah, I'm not far behind on that one. I had him at an 8, which is right around the consensus at 7.9. Like I mentioned previously, I mean, I watched him drop balls on the back shoulder pretty well. Like you said, Taylor, I didn't see him airmailing a whole lot. So I was pleasantly surprised. The more footage I watched of him, I watched about 6 or 7 full games of every snap of his, and was not disappointed. I mean, the accuracy I think is NFL caliber coming in. I think he can get better in a lot of these areas. He's going to need to get better at the next level, but I think accuracy he's not bad. My biggest concern was just how often he went with his first look or check down. But I don't know if that's just because he had DeAndre Swift and you're going to check down to your best player because he's going to catch the ball and these young receivers aren't. I mean, that's a tough thing is, there's a big turnover in the amount of players from last year to this year. How many guys went up to the NFL? So,
and I think there's something to be said there about that too, because I do recall a few instances where it was a short pass or a simple pass as far as like a swing to Swift, but those are passes that are important to hit your guy in stride and hit him in a spot where he can turn upfield quickly and make guys miss. And I think he'll be a quarterback that'll, if he's surrounded by playmakers, he'll put those guys in a position to make plays and get a lot of yards after catch. He's not going to be the one though that's dropping in 65-yard over the shoulder bombs to his streaking receivers though. So stylistically he's less of a Patrick Mahomes in that area.
Yeah, and I do want to add to that. Brad has mentioned it a couple times. I even put in my notes, like, to be fair, because I watched tape from 2018 and from 2019, but I'm more like worried about what's happening now because I think that's more indicative of where this quarterback is at this time. To be fair, when you lose Riley Ridley, who was widely regarded as one of the best route runners in last year's draft class, and then you lose Mecole Hardman, who was widely regarded as maybe the best athlete at wide receiver in last year's class, definitely the fastest. That's going to leave you some holes in the next year. You're learning a whole new wide receiver group, and this wide receiver group was not nearly as talented as either of those guys. Is it Pickens? I think is the wide receiver one that I noticed the most. He's pretty good, and I liked watching him, but definitely took a dip this year when it came to wide receiver talent. So I will be fair and say that that could play a big part of why I wasn't excited about this year's tape.
For sure. Yeah, and overall, I mean, when you wrap all this up, our team gave him a 6.7, which out of 10 isn't terrible. In the NFL, he kind of, in my opinion, projects as just kind of and it sounds bad, but a game manager type quarterback. He's a pocket passer. He seems to be one of those guys that you need to surround him with some really talented guys because, from last year to this year, just like you said, Rick, he had talented players. Things went well. This year, he had some young guys that are developing and one really talented player, and he kind of leaned on that guy, and things weren't so well. That's not it just kind of is what it is. So 6.7 out of 10 isn't a terrible ranking. And like you guys had said, as we go through and we continue to evaluate other quarterbacks, maybe this looks a little different for him. I think once he gets to the NFL, I think, he gives me the vibe that he'll probably be an above average backup to maybe spot starter. I can't see a team really buying into him, like a Jake Burrow, where they're going to give the reins over to him. He's going to have to earn it, and he's going to have to grow in some of these areas that we've got some major concerns about. So we'll kind of see how that goes. Taylor, are there any final thoughts about your evaluation of Jake Fromm?
No, I mean, my notes were basically a lot of the stuff I've already said kind of wrapped up. So I've got some concerns with his pocket presence as far as locking onto receivers. Some of the things he got away with in college, throwing off the back of the foot or his back foot, probably won't fly in the NFL. I see him, like you said, average starter. I'm really bad at player comps. It's a skill I'm hoping to get better at, but I don't have a specific player. But as far as stylistically, I agree with what you said as far as game manager. I think he would be a good backup. He wouldn't be a backup that, if injury forced him to play, that he's going to just completely wreck your team, because in my opinion, he did have the accuracy to put the ball where it needs to be on those short to intermediate routes. I don't think he's going to be the most exciting quarterback prospect that we review so far, but it'll be interesting to see where he lands, whether a team sinks a lot of draft capital into him and expects to groom him to be a starter sooner rather than later, or whether he has a situation where he's already behind a starter that's entrenched there and just is relied on to be a backup, at least to start his career. So I think that will be key to see where really his NFL success comes from.
Yeah, if I'm missing on this accuracy, which could very possibly be it, since everybody else had him higher, I think he's got like a ceiling of like a Phillip Rivers, right? A guy that's not athletic, doesn't have like super arm strength, but is accurate and could have a long streak. So that's like his ceiling, though. And then his floor is like Chase Daniels, who's a career backup and starts like 4 games in his entire career. So I think there's a wide range with him, but there is a place if his accuracy is there and if he improves on that pocket presence at the next level, to where he could be a long time starter. But again, Phillip Rivers has never excited us, and when it comes to fantasy, he's had some nice years, but he's consistently like in the middle of the pack, right? Like an average starter, a guy that you can stream, not a guy that you're comfortable plugging in there week after week after week. Even though he has had some stretches. So I think that's his ceiling, and he might sneak in, be a QB1 a few years, but it's not something that you're going to be able to count on from year to year in your dynasty league. So I would definitely not rely on him to be my starting fantasy quarterback for the long term. But paired with another guy like him, they might be able to, give you that start the best matchup every week and hope you're right kind of deal. For all of you watching, I want you to let us know in the comments what players you want us to cover next. We have a list of over 40 guys right now that we are we are planning on covering, but we want to know what you guys want. So let us know in the comments below. Guys, do you have any other points to talk on from, or are we good to end this video and move on?
I was just going to say I'd encourage everyone, like you said, to drop a comment down there. We'd love to hear and engage with you guys as far as what, I'm sure we've got some SEC fans here that watched a lot of Fromm and can tell us where we're wrong, where do you agree with us, those types of things. After we get a little bit later on into the year where we have the draft and combine and things like that, where you think he'll go in SuperFlex drafts and things like that. This will be a great video to come back to, and we can engage here on this player and hopefully get into some healthy debates. So looking forward to that.
Yep, we love to know when we're wrong. Help us.
Yep. Tell us in the comments how we were wrong, and then look for after the combine. We will have the next Jake Fromm video rating his combine. So that will be around in a couple months, and we will be back very soon with the next 2020 rookie evaluation. Don't forget, make sure you hit the subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss any more fantasy football content from the RotoHeat.com team. Also, right there, playlist. Hit it. Watch the videos. Do it. You want to. Do it.